Welcome back to Basics and Beyond the podcast. I'm Coach Laura. I'm super excited to have you here today. I really am. This is the first week of August in 2026. I don't even know where the year has gone, and I certainly don't know how fast summer can go. I mean, it's crazy. We are almost to fall. Summer is pretty much over. And I say that knowing that we still have quite a bit of summer left. I mean, have you seen the temperatures? It's crazy. However, fall is on our doorstep. And when we think of fall, we think of big changes, not just in terms of, the scenery, but this is part of the reason we say summer's coming to an end, because school is starting pretty soon. I have a lot of clients, a lot of friends who are in education in a variety of roles. People are going back to classrooms, to bus routes, to helping out kiddos in classrooms. And that's a really important transition. Parents, I have parents who's I know parents whose kids are going back to school. Even though they get very excited the kids are going back to school, it's still a big transition. This is a huge time of change and transition for a lot of us. And that's tough. Transitions are hard. Transitions remind us that we don't have the control that we think we do. Because control makes us feel safe. If we believe that we have control over what's coming, our reactions, our interactions, how we deal with people, kind of all the things of life, if we have this sense of control and this sense of feeling safe with everything that's coming, transitions are easier. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today about why transitions feel unsafe and what helps. And we just talked about it. So simple. Transitions, time of change, it feels unsafe because we don't have control. And as human beings, we want to be in control. It gives us order. It gives us structure. It makes sense of life if we have control. Unfortunately, like we just said, we really don't have as much control as we think we do. So that creates a lot of feelings of anxiousness, discomfort, lack of safety, so fear, those kinds of emotions come up for us. And those are emotions that are important to address, to validate, and to not get stuck in, because that creates more chaos. That also, those emotions create a lot more feeling of that lack of control. So what helps? What helps us to kind of get through these transitions, these times of change? Because guess what? Change is inevitable. Change really is the only constant. So the better equipped we are to deal with change and transitions, the better we're going to feel. And that means that we have to really turn it around and reconnect with ourselves. We have to reconnect with what's going on. And so often when we decide to reconnect, we stop short. And what do I mean by stopping short? I mean, what we do is we go, I feel this way. I feel anxious. Oh my God, everything's out of control. And we stop at the feeling level. And that feeling level doesn't go deep enough. I don't know where I heard this the first time, but it was after, it's within the last decade or so that I've been a full-time coach. Someone had said, and I'm sure it was someone a long, long time ago, that our feelings are the horse and we are the rider, which means we need to take control of those feelings. They're still there. They're still important. They're going to get us somewhere, and we ultimately have control of those things. So today we're going to talk about how do we make those transitions easier. And one of the keys, like I said, is don't get stuck in that feeling level. Yeah, go there, pay attention to those feelings, and then we need to find a way to move through them. So we're going to reconnect, we're going to pay attention to the feelings, and we're going to move through them. I have a great example of this. We do, a coach friend of mine, Meryl and I do a group coaching cohort right now. It's called the self-sabotage solution. We just call it the solution because it's the solution to why you aren't reaching your goals. And we're into about week 8 of 12 right now. And we have been working on a lot of things, but we're digging in deep into where our emotions come from, why we're self-sabotaging, and really the fact that self-sabotage is self-protection, that safety piece. So last week on our call, one of the ladies was telling us that she did something she has never done before. Never done before. She was out to coffee with a friend of hers, a newer friend, someone she didn't know super well, right? You might call them an acquaintance, but felt like she enjoyed spending time with this person. So they're out to coffee, and this lady they were just chatting, and somebody had walked by, and her friend had made some sort of a rude comment or demeaning comment under her breath, kind of, to this lady about this person who had walked by. She didn't know this person, they'd never met. It was just somebody at a coffee shop. And this participant in our group, she said, I just stopped and I took a breath and I thought about how I was feeling. And she said, in that moment, I thought about how we had been working on values and beliefs and kind of understanding what our values are. And she said, I stopped her and I said, you know, that person is someone's son. That person is someone's cousin. That person is someone's friend. There are people who love that person. That's a human being. And she said to this lady, I think it's rude to talk about somebody like that. I don't want to talk about people like that. And she went on to explain to us that she thought about what she was saying in the moments that she was saying it, and it truly came from her value system. She did not want this person to be offended. She didn't want to hurt this person. She wasn't attacking this person that she was having coffee with. She just needed to explain and talk about her feelings and talk about her values. And she wanted this friend of hers to be open to hearing her feelings and her values about that specific topic. And so she went about it in a way that was authentic to her and got her point across without being rude, mean to this other lady. And she came to the group and she was so excited. She goes, I felt so good in those moments. I didn't feel anxious. I wasn't scared. I wasn't shaking, and I was speaking up for myself. And she said, I just felt very calm. And we talk about that as being really regulated, right? Her nervous system was very regulated, which means she was speaking from a place of authenticity, a place of confidence, a place that was truly who she was. And not with an agenda, and not, this is important, caring about trying to change someone else's opinion. She wasn't trying to put her friend down. It wasn't about the other person. It was about her being authentic to herself in that moment and speaking about her values, or from her values, actually, is what she was doing. And she said, you know what? She said, normally what I would have done, because I would have felt out of control, she said, I wouldn't have said anything. And I would have internalized all the things, felt bad for not saying anything, not authentic, not being myself. I have no confidence. She goes, I would have gone home and immediately walked into the pantry and grabbed chips and stood at the counter, maybe talking to my husband, maybe not, about what happened, but just mindlessly eating these chips and rolling this whole conversation over and over and over in my head. And she said, by the time I would have been done, and she goes, I've done it a million times before. By the time I would have gotten done with the chips, I would have felt bad about myself because I ate the chips. I mindlessly ate. Why did I do those things? Why am I sabotaging myself? The chips aren't something that I wanted to eat. I wasn't paying any attention. I'm a horrible person. All the things. She just kind of went on and on. She's like, and because of the work I've been doing, she said she was able to be in the moment, be present, and she was calm and regulated and was authentically her. She stood up for herself. She was confident, and she didn't need the chips. So she didn't sabotage her work that she's done because she wasn't looking for the food to calm her or to make her feel better, right? So it's so important in these times of change that when things feel chaotic, when things feel out of control, to turn our attention back to ourselves and really look at whatever the situation is. This was one specific situation where normally this person would have felt very out of control, very chaotic, very unconfident, unsafe to say anything. Turn that attention back to ourselves, take some deep breaths, and really reconnect with who we are and what our values are. And maybe your value, maybe it's not speaking up for yourself. That's something she's been working on, right? So that's individual to her, but maybe it's not speaking up for yourself. Maybe it's a totally different situation. But being authentic in those moments and turning our attention to ourselves and saying, how am I feeling right now and why? What do I really need right now? Here's what I'm feeling. What do I need? It's very, very important when we are going through times of change and transition that we find ways to feel safe. And that isn't necessarily like physically safe, but we're talking about being emotionally safe, being present in the moment, being able to reconnect and build that relationship with ourselves. So in this time of transition and change, because like I said, right, we all know change happens all the time. Transitions happen all the time. And a lot of times we don't know they're coming. So to practice kind of re-engaging with yourself in the moments when it's not life or death, when it's not a huge moment of change, right? So one strategy that I use, and I like to give you guys strategies. So here it is. One strategy that I use for myself, and I use them with my clients, is let's practice this when the stakes aren't so high. An easy way to do that, I should say simple. It's not easy. A simple way to do that is to just check in with yourself throughout the day. Just kind of take a second, check in. How am I feeling right now? Am I feeling calm? Am I feeling anxious? Am I agitated? Am I worried? I wonder what that's about. And looking at that, doing that whole process from a space of curiosity, not judgment. So maybe practicing that. You could set an alarm. Some people love alarms, and it's a thing. They like to be on a schedule, which is great. And maybe you need to do that just to start the practicing, right? Is to like set an alarm. Or maybe it's like, hey, at lunchtime, I'm going to check in with myself, or, that kind of thing. Set some times to check in with yourself during the day. Just turn that vision, turn those eyes inward and reconnect with yourself for a brief moment. Ask yourself how you're feeling. Like, how am I doing? You ask everybody else how they're doing. Whether you really want to know or not, that's different. But we do it for people all the time. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Let's take a moment, turn that back and ask ourselves, how am I doing? How am I doing right now? Just check in. That's the first step in moving through those changes and transitions that we're either not expecting or they're harder than we thought they would be, and being able to be kind of calm, regulated, and feel safe. So as you make your way through this next month, when things are changing for a lot of us, take some time to practice. Because the more we can feel safe with ourselves and we can build that relationship back with ourselves, turn that thought process inward so that we're really reconnecting, the easier those transitions are going to be as we go through life. So think about it as practice, because that's all we're doing here is we're practicing. We're practicing strategies so that we can rise up from where we're at and we can redefine our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with food, our relationships to the gym. So what I'm talking about is relationship to self emotionally, psychologically, and physically. And what you'll find then, hopefully, is as we make this a good practice and as we get better at reconnecting with ourselves, those distractions and avoidance techniques that we've used for years and years, like this client with her chips, and a lot of us use food for it, those things go by the wayside, and it's much easier to make progress physically, emotionally, and psychologically. So If you have questions, if you're looking for more strategies, if you want to talk about how to reconnect with yourself, gosh darn it, I'm here for it. These are things I practice a lot too. So you know where to find me: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm on all the socials, TikTok. Please find me, ask me questions. Let me know what you think of this episode. I'm just very excited to bring this topic to you. These are things we've been working on for a long time, my coach friend and I, as well as myself. This is where the real work happens. This is how we create change with ourselves. So reconnect. When things start to feel chaotic, take some deep breaths and ask yourself, how am I feeling? And what do I really need? And come back for the next episode, because we're going to keep digging in. And if you have thoughts about what you want these episodes to be about, please let me know. I would love to do an episode just for you about whatever topic you want. So hit me with your questions and comments, and have a wonderful rest of August.